my most recent job was with Syngene. So I thought maybe I should talk about something from Syngene. But then I realized that it would be an incomplete story because half the things you do and the other half your client does. And then, of course, there's an interesting story there, but most of it is about relationship management and not so much product development. So I thought, let's not go there. So taking cue from Lakshmi, who talked about her previous company's achievements, I also thought, let me also kind of do a previous company story, which is her current company, which is Intas. So, going back to the very first product that we developed and which eventually became the first product from India to get EU approval and the first product to get EU GMP certification in the plant, which was GCSF, which of course then went into PEG GCSF also. But so this product, so like all stories start, right? Once upon a time, long, long ago, 22 years ago in early 2001, where a group of us, was a small team then, about 10 people, started working on GCSF. We started building the plant, we did the groundbreaking in March of 2001. We got the clone, in those days it was quite common to acquire the clone from external companies. It's still common, now many companies also do it in-house. So we got the clone, I think in July or August of 2001. In August, our facility, R&D facility was ready, so we could start process development work. The manufacturing facility was still under construction. This is, we are talking 2001. And in June 2004, roughly 33 months from the start of the project, we actually launched it in India, or June or July. So it was a fantastic achievement. I think, if you look at it, too many products that have been probably developed and launched faster than that. So we were all very happy. Of course, those days were different. Regulations were a little looser. Probably you couldn't really do it at that same pace today. Nevertheless, it was still a remarkable achievement at that time. And then when we started, there was really no intention of going to EU or anything like that, because in those days, the little older people here will remember, younger people might find it somewhat surprising or interesting, is that we looked at FDA and EMA as some sort of this fantastic creatures, fearsome, you don't know, you had a feeling that you can never meet their expectations. In fact, most of the times we didn't know what their expectations really were. And like in many cases, when you don't know something, you fear it, right? And when you come to know of it, actually that's what triggered my that thought about this "मिल जाए तो मिट्टी है." कि when you actually understand it, you realize कि यार इतना मुश्किल नहीं है. You can do it. It's when you don't know and when you don't understand that you have most fear about whether you can actually do it or not. And so in those days, this was this big thing about FDA compliance, can we really meet it or not? So we had no intentions. But once we had launched the product in the market, companies from Europe would come to our management and say, oh, we want to license your product and so on. And of course, they saw the money in it. So we ended up signing a deal for European, taking the product to Europe. And as Shakespeare has said, some people have greatness thrust upon them. So this whole EU, taking the product to EU was thrust upon us. So we said, okay, we have to respond to that. And then that was a time when really nobody had any experience. The first therapeutic product from India got only approved within India, even in 2001. Actually, I was part of that. And so nobody had really any experience, so it was a sort of common learning experience for everybody. We had, young people, older people, it didn't really matter because nobody knew more than anybody else, right? So we just encouraged everybody to learn. And that was a, sort of a joint effort. We had people fresh out of college, 1 or 2 years experience, being sent to attend international conferences. coming back and sharing their knowledge. We did probably the first time things like process characterization, which had never been done in those days in India. So we did it for the first time. So a lot of those kind of learning experiences, I think, helped us in that. It was a very, I would say, democratized approach because everybody could contribute, and anybody who knew something was therefore an expert in that area. And then they shared their knowledge. We had internal workshops where people would train each other on how to develop these products. On the compliance side, also, again, we had to raise our standards. So we did a collaborative effort, right? And when I say collaborative, I don't mean soft. I have my then manufacturing leader, Swapnil, here, and perhaps my then quality leader, Shaligram, might be here. So they were collaborative in the sense, we had these, what do we call it, cross-functional audits. And people would go really, hammer and tongs at each other. They would find, 500 deficiencies in the other department. The QC would audit manufacturing, manufacturing would audit QA, QA would audit engineering, engineering would audit R&D, things like that. And they would just be, really like bloodthirsty hounds, trying to look for deficiencies. And we would have literally hundreds of these deficiencies coming up. But then we fixed all of them. And that's how we had actually tabulated that the total number of deficiencies identified in in-house audits were like 1,000, and the total number of deficiencies identified in regulatory agency audits were like 15, because we had that opportunity to correct everything. And when people did that, really going after each other, and then the auditee department fiercely defending it and so on, of course, it was heated debates. But I think the underlying that was a recognition that it's really a joint responsibility, because we either swim together or sink together. It's a joint responsibility to ensure that we are going to be in compliance when the actual the real test happens. And so that was a great experience. So 2004 we launched in India. 2007 I think we had the EU inspection. We got the GMP certificate, and then. That was when we were able to manufacture and supply for clinical trials. And in 2013, we got the first approval of G-CSF in Europe, being the first from India. So that's kind of the short story of that first approval. Thank you. Yeah. All right. You've either understood it perfectly or not understood it at all.
Hi. Ashish here from Grow Lab Narayana Netralaya, Bangalore. So right now we are into the recombinant AAV production, and we are into the transition phase from R&D to bioproduction. So I just wanted to ask, how do you foresee this transition happening in the industrial side of it?
Sorry, the transition from
labs to the industry.
Transition in what way? How you can make that
from academia to industry part. Like how would this tech transfer would be happening?
Okay, so I mean there are multiple dimensions to your question, and the answers would depend upon that. But really, any transition or any tech transfer or whatever, you have to change your mindset and perspective to the other side, right? So if you're handing over something, and it's like a sale. If you're selling a TV in a shop, the sales guy has to look at it from your point of view. If you're the one customer, right? What are your interests? What do you need? What is important to you? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it picture quality? Whatever it is, the sales guy can't talk about what the technology they have used. Because maybe that's for the customer is not really important. So if you're doing any tech transfer, any transition, think of it from the receiving side's perspective. What is important to them? Make sure that you give that.
Right. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Dhananjay.
Hi.
I'm Abhishek Naik from VJ Bio. So maybe this question pertains to you and both. I can ask to Lakshmi also, and maybe both of you can answer. So both of you shared like during your starting the BD PEG GCSF. I was part of PEG GCSF team and in Biocon before, and even for your GCSF experience. So initially you had some starting phase, and in between there was you explained how different teams were at loggerheads, sort of, and blame game. So as a person who is leading it, how would you determine whom to listen to and whom not to listen? And maybe choose the edge or the right path.
Yeah, so that's a secret. If I tell you, then I'll have to kill you, right?
Maybe Lakshmi.
It's secret knowledge. No, so I think it's wrong to say that, people are at loggerheads. They have different opinions, and they're fiercely opinionated about their opinions.
Yeah.
But you have to really, get down, and you have to assume, and generally it's true that most people have the right intentions and sort of bona fide intentions. Nobody's trying to pull the rug from the other person. Usually not. There are situations like that. But once you know that everybody is on the right track, I think you just put it more logically. And I like to break down problems and make them narrower, right?
Okay.
So that's my sort of secret, if you will, is that if somebody says this QA doesn't do this, and the QA says manufacturing doesn't do that, or whatever, make the problem smaller. Okay, what do you agree on? Remove it from the picture. What is the specific point that you disagree on? Is it that you want to do this, you don't want to do this? Do you think it should be done, but I don't have time? Or do you think it should be done, but I don't have the money? Bring the, get down to the so the root problem. Or you have a philosophical problem whether something should be done or not done. Bring it down. Then I find that the discussion becomes more rational.
Okay. Thank you.